Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 11th October 2024. Today again we will be discussing some important topics that has appeared in today's The Hindu and The Indian Express newspapers which are very relevant for your exam. In our first topic, we'll look into various aspects of National Agriculture Code, its objective, significance as well as limitations. Then in our second topic, we'll look into various dimensions of middle income trap and can India escape middle income trap or not. Then in our simplified section, we will take up 7 articles and we'll try to explain them in simplest language possible to enrich your understanding of newspapers. So stay tuned. So our first topic is National Agriculture Code. The context of this topic is that the Bureau of Indian Standards (BIS) has begun the process of formulating a National Agriculture Code on the lines of existing National Building Code as well as National Electrical Code. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3 agriculture. So this BIS, which is the national body which sets standards for different products across various economic sector. For example, this National Building Code which has been developed by BIS itself, this tells us various standards that we have to follow for construction, for maintenance, as well as for various safety measures that one should follow. For example, fire safety measures. While going for the construction, what should be the material that should be used, in what amount that should be used. So that all the aspects are looked after this National Building Code. And the buildings that are being developed, they need to follow this National Building Code. On the similar line, there is a National Agriculture Code that is envisaged to be developed, which will provide a comprehensive coverage about all the agricultural practices that is being followed. Whether it is for the backward linkages for inputs, irrigation, tillage, or for the forward linkages, that is for harvesting, threshing, as well as storage of the crops. So in agriculture, the BIS have already set standards for machineries like tractors, harvesters and various inputs like fertilizers, pesticides, etc. However, there are many areas that are not covered under the BIS standards. For example, there is no standard for practices like the preparation of the field, how the field should be prepared, how much tillage should be done, etc. Then there is no as such standard for the micro irrigation, the precision agriculture techniques like drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, etc. Or the water use, that in what amount water should be used, at what frequency water should be used. All that information is not available as such in a standard format. So farmers are using according to their own whims and fancies. And that is why if there will be a National Agriculture Code, farmers will have one framework that they will be following. So if we talk about the coverage of this National Agriculture Code, it will cover the crop selection, that what crop should be selected based on the climatic conditions of that region, based on the soil, irrigation, water availability and everything. The land preparation technique, whether land should be flooded before the tillage, to what frequency the tillage should be done, and what amount the tillage should be done, and what are the various equipments that should be used for the tillage. Then with regard to the sowing and transplanting of the crop, how that transplantation field should be prepared and everything. Then irrigation and drainage of the related and other related aspects. So at what frequency irrigation should be done, in what amount that water should be provided to the crops, all those things. Then soil health management, whether it is for micronutrients or macronutrients, in what amount that should be provided based on the health of the soil. And in this regard, the soil health card scheme that is being run by the government is going to play a very important role. Then the plant health management, that if there are some pest attack or any disease that is plaguing the plant, what should be the standard operating procedure that a farmer should follow. Then with regard to the harvesting and the threshing, in what amount of time that should be done, and what are the various do's and don'ts that should be followed. All that will be provided under the particular National Agriculture Code. Then also the post-harvest operations, the storage, that what material should be used for the storing purposes, whether it is jute bag, plastic bag, and do we need to use some pesticides, etc. before storage to ensure that there is no infestation of pest, etc. All that will be comprehensively covered under the National Agriculture Code. Now, before moving further, you tell me in the comment box that this Bureau of Indian Standards is under the administrative control of which particular ministry. Again, one another thing is that in this year's prelims as well as mains exam, you have seen that the weightage of the current affairs has been significant. In mains exam also, whether it is GS2, GS3 or the GS1 paper, there has been a lot of questions that were directly came from the current affairs things. So this topic may be important for your upcoming prelims as well as the mains examination. Now, what are the objectives of developing this National Agriculture Code? As per the website of BIS, it will provide comprehensive coverage of agricultural practices, integrating both the traditional practices of the farmers as well as new age practices that can actually help in increasing the productivity, minimizing the use of inputs, and the major issue that the productivity that as of now is very low in case of India, that will be addressed. For example, the area that is usually used for the agriculture in China is very less as compared to what is being used in India. But the productivity in China is very high as compared to India. And India's productivity is also very low as compared to global average. Why is it so? Because we are still very dependent on the traditional practices, monsoons, some old variety of seeds, etc. We are not fulfilling the demand of the agriculture and other demands which are arising due to climate change related issues and other things. So it will help in providing a comprehensive coverage of agricultural practices by integrating both the traditional as well as new age practices that can actually help in increasing the remuneration of the farmers as well as also addressing the challenges that are arising due to climate change. Then it will also help in enhancing the quality culture in the agriculture. For example, recently if you are following the current affairs, you would have an idea that there were several spices from the MDH, Everest, etc. companies which were returned back from the Singapore and various countries of the Europe, because they were not following the quality that is mandated in these countries. What was the issue? The presence of ethylene oxide was there beyond permissible limit in these spices. So if there will be a proper agriculture code, the farmers as well as processors will have an idea that in what amount we have to use a particular preservative or particular pesticide so that our product is export ready as well as it is widely accepted across the globe. It will also provide a guide for the effective farming practices, the farming practices that is in sync with the conditions of the Indian climate as well as the needs that are arising in the 21st century. Also, it will help in integration with the Indian standards, that is the taste that is required, the quality that is required, all that will be properly followed. Also, it will help us in addressing the sanitary and the phytosanitary measures that is mandated by the World Trade Organization. It will also help in addressing the horizontal aspects of agriculture like smart farming, sustainability, traceability, and the documentation of all the crops as well as the products that are harvested after the crops. Also, it will provide proper supporting for the capacity building initiatives that are being developed, that are being run by the government as well as civil society organization for overall development of agriculture. Then if you talk about the implementation plan of this code, the drafting of the code is expected to be completed by October 2025, and the standardized agriculture demonstration farms would be developed, which will be the experimental farms to test and implement standardized agricultural practices. Here, after being developed through a draft, it will be implemented under this SADF. Then the BIS will also run various training programs, and it will provide some plans to collaborate with University and Agriculture Institute to train the farmers on the National Agriculture Code. And moreover, it is not possible to train all the farmers. That's why some farmers will be picked and they will be trained, and then trickle down approach might be followed in this regard also. Then if you talk about the significance of this National Agriculture Code, first it will ensure that there is standardization and uniformity across India with regard to seed selection, with regard to irrigation techniques, or with regard to storage, etc. So this will not create issues while ensuring, for example, let's suppose the price discovery that happens at this point of time, ENAM that is followed for selling of the crops. Now what happens, the major issue with the ENAM is that there is no proper method to ensure that the quality is ensured. The farmers have to bring their produce to the physical mandis where that quality will be checked, but still there are a lot of issues in ensuring the quality. But if there is an agriculture code and that is being followed starting from sowing to harvesting, it will ensure that to a larger extent the quality of that produce will be ensured across the borders of India. That will help us in ensuring that the better prices are given, better prices are available for the farmers' produce. Also, the quality assurance would be there. Whatever the pesticides and whatever the preservatives, etc., that we have talked, that would be in the permissible limit, and we will not have to face that humiliation that our products are being returned back. Then it will also help us in providing proper policy guidance by the government. They will understand that as of now, whatever the schemes that are being run by the government, in majority of the cases, there are overlapping. And it is very difficult for government to understand that in what area the farmers need more hand-holding as well as support. Whereas if this code will be implemented, it will be easy for government to understand that in what area the farmers need more help, whether it is with regard to the availability of seeds, fertilizers, irrigation, or providing them better prices after their harvest. It will also help us in empowering the farmers, and it will help us in doubling the farmers' income that is envisaged by the Ashok Dalwai committee. Also, it will make our products globally competitive, that our products will be able to compete with some of the products that are coming from the China or some other good agricultural producing countries, because our quality would be good, our product will be viable as well as properly following all the norms that are required by the exporting countries, and it can help us in earning lot of foreign exchange reserves. And we have to also understand this thing, that if we are envisaging a vision of developed India or Viksit Bharat by 2047, that is to a large extent not possible without the contribution of the agriculture, because as of now the contribution of agriculture is not very sound in the GDP. Second, most of the workforce is dependent on the agriculture. So we need to improve the productivity of agriculture, as well as the export of the agriculture products needs to be promoted, and that can actually help in realizing the vision of developed India or Viksit Bharat by 2047, as well as also achieving $5 trillion economy by 2025. So it will also help us in sustainability, that the agriculture that we are following is in sync with keeping the demand of the future, the needs of the future, and it would be also taking care of the needs of the environment. For example, if we will have some code with regard to the irrigation, we will not go on for the flood irrigation, and the present case where there is overburdening on the groundwater, and that is leading to a lot of groundwater depletion as well as soil salinization, soil infertility, etc. All those issues can be addressed, and the agriculture would be in sync with the needs of the environment also. However, there are some limitations also. For example, there are some implementation challenges. As of now, there are various farmers who are not very literate, and since they are majorly following those traditional practices, and there are some traditional practices, for example, jhum cultivation in northeast areas, or there are some traditional practices that are part of the culture itself. So it might be very difficult to implement this code throughout the India. Second, if we talk about the codes that are already in place, for example, National Building Code, it becomes very difficult to ensure that all the provisions of the National Building Code are being followed properly, because there is no proper oversight mechanism that can actually help us in ensuring that this code is being followed. So due to the resource constraint as well as lack of proper oversight mechanism, there might be difficulty in implementing this code. Also, there is lack of awareness about the new technologies as well as new updates, new developments that are happening, especially in the agricultural sector, because the majority of the farmers are the small and marginal. First, second, they are not very literate. So due to limited awareness and due to the limited options available within the limited time to increase the awareness among the farmers, there might be difficulty in ensuring that the code is being followed properly. Also, the government have limited resources. So to provide the training to the farmers, to ensure that they understand all the nitty-gritties of the particular code, the government may have to spend a lot of resources, and they have limited resources, limited financial resources are available, so that might also create some difficulty. Then the resistance to change. We have seen it has been very difficult to nudge farmers towards moving to new age technologies or moving to sustainable farming practices. What we have seen in case of the paddy and the wheat cultivation in the Punjab Haryana regions, that despite government's efforts as well as lot of issues that are arising from the stubble burning, there has been lot of stubble burning that keeps going on, and in the upcoming months we might see more and more air pollution as well as smog like situations in the Delhi NCR region, and one of the major reason for that would be the stubble burning. And why that is continuing? The first, lack of proper and viable alternatives of stubble burning. Second is that the farmers are little resistant to change. So it would be very difficult for the government to ensure that farmers are following this code properly. Then there are regulatory hurdles. Since agriculture is a state subject, it differs from state to states, and it is the ultimate duty of the states would be there that to implement this code. So there might be different regulations that may be applicable across different states that might create certain other issues. Also, there are data limitation with regard to the practices as well as the inputs and everything that are being followed in the agricultural sector. So whether the code would be proper, whether it would be comprehensively covering all the dimensions of the backward and the forward linkages would be a major challenge. So if we talk about the way forward that we should follow, the draft of the code should be brought in the public domain, and the feedback across the persons, agricultural economists and civil society organizations, NGOs, etc. should be taken. The feedback of these people should be taken, and based on that, more and more amendments should be brought in that code, so that whatever the code that is being finally published is more broad-based as well as inclusive, and that can actually help us in doubling the farmers' income as well as overall vision of developed India by 2047 can be achieved. A mains practice question from this topic that you people can write is that discuss the major objectives of National Agricultural Code and examine its significance in promoting sustainable and efficient agriculture in India. Our second topic is, can India escape middle income trap? The context of this topic is that a write-up has appeared focusing on various aspects of middle income trap. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 3, growth and develop. If you talk about the context again, there is a World Development Report 2024 that highlights the phenomena of middle income trap. This is a situation where a middle income country struggles to become a high income economy due to rising cost and declining competitiveness. GDP per capita between $1,136 to $13,845 is the bracket where we consider a particular country as a middle income country. And these kind of countries which are falling in this range face growth slowdowns and struggles to reach high income levels. If you look into this graph, this is the middle income trap that is mainly faced by some of the countries, that they do not achieve this high income zone where there is high per capita GDP. The modern model of economic development cannot be achieved, and they are stuck in this transitional phase from the low income to high income. If you talk about various other highlights from the report that is released by the World Bank, since 1990, only 34 middle income countries have transitioned to high income status, and that emphasizes on the points that middle income trap is a serious issue. Also, as of end of 2023, 108 middle income countries host 75% of the global population, and they generate over 40% of global GDP. So it shows the point that it is very important that these countries transition to the high income GDP countries. Also, the wealthy countries often hit a growth slowdown at around $8,000 per capita, that is almost 10% of US GDP per person. And if we talk about other challenges for middle income countries, include aging population, rising protectionism, and need for faster energy transitions towards the renewable energy. That, for example, the achievement of net zero by 2070, or the transitioning from non-renewable sources to renewable energy sources. For example, India have made some targets like 500 gigawatt achievement. And India is a lower middle income country since 2007 and has a GNI, that is gross national income per capita, at $2,540 and may take 75 years to reach 1/4 of US income per capita at current trends at what we are growing. So that shows, that emphasizes on the point that it might be a case that India may get stuck in this middle income trap. So why countries do actually fall in this trap? Because of the insufficient infrastructure. Because this creates a situation where more and more jobs are being created. Also, the productivity in the economy increases manifold. So if the infrastructure is not very good as well as not very sufficient, this creates a situation where countries do comes in the middle income trap. Then the inefficient bureaucracy, the environmental clearances or other clearances that are needed for faster infrastructure development, when that is not there, when bureaucratic red tapeism is there, that further aggravates the situation. Then the innovation that is very limited, and here more and more issue is with regard to the lack of proper capacity building and handholding by the government, lack of proper funding and interest by the private sector, as well as not equipping our demography with proper skills of the 21st century like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. Not changing curriculum properly. So that leads to lack of innovation, and this further decreases the productivity. Then the political instability, when that is there, that leads to a case of policy paralysis or policy inconsistencies, where there is no consistency between the policy that was taken by one government and that is not being carried forward by another government. So that further impacts the overall GDP growth and further aggravates the situation. And then the debt burden, especially with regard to the 21st century challenges that are arising. For example, the 2008 global financial crisis that happened, or the COVID that has arisen, the pandemic. So here the role of the government increased manifold. For example, after COVID, the government has provided national increased coverage, as well as they have provided more and more grains under the National Food Security Act. A separate scheme, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, was launched. So other than that, NPA crisis happened, where the recapitalization of banks had to be done. Apart from that, various populist schemes like farm loan waivers we have seen in past decade. So all that have created more and more accumulation of debt with the government, and that further impacted the GDP growth as well as overall competitiveness of the economy. Then the demographic challenges that we have witnessed. For example, in case of India, almost 10% of the population as of now is aged, and it might double till year 2050 as per the projections of the United Nations. So we have a burden of the care economy. Second, the demography that we have present, we are not skilling that properly. There is lack of proper updation, proper curriculum updation is there. That further aggravates the situation, and these are the reasons why these countries fall into this trap. So why India is susceptible to fall in this trap? The first, the stagnant manufacturing sector. We have taken a leap from primary sector or agriculture sector to the service sector. The GDP share remains stagnant at around 15 to 17% in past few decades. And that is one reason that we might see ourselves in this middle income trap. Then the inequality and the wage stagnations that we have seen. For example, as per the World Inequality Report, the top 1% of the population have at least 22 to 23% of the wealth of India. Then the wage stagnation we have seen. As compared to the inflation, it hasn't been adjusted very well in the past decade. So when the wages are not increasing and inequality is rising, majority of the fruits of the GDP growth is cornered by few persons. It is not helping people to improve their standard of living, improve their health and educational indicators. So their overall per capita income would not be increasing. Then the various demographic challenges. For example, the 10% of population is elderly, and that we have talked that it is going to increase at least 20%. Then the democratic constraints, various other democratic constraints. For example, in the article that published today, they have given the example of the South Korea as well as Chile, where proper democratic setups were not there when they have seen a very high GDP growth rate. There was a proper clear support to few private individuals, few private businesses as well as corporates who were developing, who were increasing, who were expanding in sync with the government agenda. And there was a deliberate attempt to remove those private corporates and those businesses which could not develop with regard to in sync with the government's agenda. Do you think that those kind of things are possible in India, that government can clearly support one private company and they can discriminate to other corporate company or private company? No, that is not possible in India. Or the examples, other example that particular article have given, that there has been various cases of military rule in these countries like Chile, etc. So when there will be a dictatorship, when there will be no democratic values flourishing in the economy, it might be possible that there is an agenda that is set by the government and that will only be followed for all the private sectors. And private sector may favor, the government may favor some of the private sectors, and that might lead to increased economic growth for a few years, and that has actually helped in some countries to come out of the middle income trap. But that is not possible in the case of India, because for us GDP growth rate is less important as compared to flourishing of the democratic values. Because there is no point at all that we have high GDP growth rate if there is discrimination between the people, if right to equality, the right to freedom is not being given to the people. So due to democratic constraints, the experts believe that India might fall in this trap. Then inefficient infrastructure in India. For example, logistics cost in India is almost 14 to 18% of the GDP as told by the Economic Survey 2022-23, and the global average is only 8%. That shows the insufficient as well as inefficient infrastructure that is there in place. And we need to work on that area. Also, the limited innovation is there. The research and development as compared to the GDP is very minimal as compared to other global peers. Also, the innovation, that culture is not present in India. And especially with regard to the private sector contribution is also very minuscule. And the rising protectionism as well as trade wars between other countries, where the countries are shifting from outward looking to inward looking, where they are not favoring some of the exports from other countries, and there are various other tariff as well as non-tariff barriers that are being imposed on the products of outside countries. So this is again limiting India's export chances, that India can contribute to global supply chains. India can integrate itself to global supply chains as well as can leverage the fruits of its export potential due to this protectionism as well as trade wars. For example, the trade wars that are happening between the China and the US, or the other geopolitical situation that is further disrupting the supply chains, like the Israel-Iran situation, Russia-Ukraine war happened earlier. All that is leading lot of issues, lot of apprehensions for India, especially with regard to the GDP growth rate, and that might lead us that we fall in this trap. And you can see from this graph also, with regard to the general agricultural laborers and the non-agricultural laborers, what has been the wage increase? That has been almost stagnant. So that is also one reason that we have discussed. We can understand from this graph also that it has been more or less stagnant in past few decades. So what can be done? As suggested by the report of the World Bank, there is need for 3I approach, that is investment in the economy, for the infrastructure development, for improving the efficiency. Then also we need infusion, where there is technology transfer that is happening. More and more improved as well as 21st century technology is being used, that can also improve the efficiency and the productivity in the economy. And we have to focus on the innovation, because we have to understand the resources, whether it is land resources or the demography that we have. Until and unless we utilize that to its full potential, it would be very difficult for us to come out of this middle income trap. And for that, investment, infusion as well as innovation is required. Also, there is need for strong state intervention. For that, government may give some targeted subsidies, especially to some high growth sectors. Then there might be some tax incentives that might be provided to some government companies which are performing well with the agenda of the government, that are providing more and more jobs to the people. Also, there might be more business friendly regulations, so that these companies can comply with these regulations better. For example, the production linked incentive scheme, or the tax benefits with regard to several subsidies or incentives that is being provided for the corporate tax, etc. That are some of the measures by the government in this line. Then we need to adopt new technologies of the 21st century, and for that we need to skill our demography properly, whether the skilling we need to provide for IoT, AI or machine learning. Also, there is need for developing that strategy which is export driven, so that we can reap the integration, we can reap the benefit by integrating ourselves with the global supply chains. For example, we need to ensure that product is of proper quality, product is not have a high shelf life, and it is following the norms where we are exporting. The global permissible limit with regard to the pesticides or whatever the chemicals we are using, we need to follow that, so that we can build a global brand of our product, and that can actually help us in increasing our export. Also, we need to follow inclusive growth policies. What is happening at this point of time, that we are following a siloed approach, that we are developing our policies separately. We are not seeing them in an integrated fashion. For example, the raw material that is being provided for the manufacturing sector, that is coming from the agriculture. The transportation facility that is provided, that is part of tertiary sector. The branding and the increasing the brand value of that is part of marketing, etc. That is under the tertiary sector. So when we see all the policies in an integrated fashion, when we are following that integrated growth policy, when we are following that integrated growth strategy, it might help us in increasing our growth rate as well as preventing ourselves into going to this middle income trap. Also, we need to follow various institutional reforms. For example, rationalization of various laws and regulations can be done, and the institutions may be provided with more regulation facilities, more regulatory power, so that they can ensure that whatever the schemes, etc., that are being run by the governments, the benefits are being reached properly. For example, in case of the manufacturing sector, if the institutions that are there, that are set up to ensure that proper wages are being provided to the laborers or not, if they would be given more power, they will ensure that there is no wage stagnation. Also, the wages are being provided properly. A mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic: discuss the factors contributing to the phenomena of middle income trap and suggest the strategies that India can adopt to break out of this trap and achieve sustainable income status. Under the simplified section, our first topic is grueling course of litigation in India. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2 judiciary, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 12. So the context is that there is an editorial written in the Hindu paper, and it says that the last month the President of India, Draupadi Murmu ji, highlighted the issue of court delays. In her speech, the National Conference of the District Judiciary, she noted that these delays what are making people hesitate approaching the court, as they fear that the pursuit of justice will complicate their life further. She referred to this black coat syndrome, likening it to white coat hypertension, a condition where patients exhibit elevated blood pressure in clinical settings. While the term is symbolic, it underscores a real issue that many people are reluctant to engage in litigation due to the grueling process, which includes endless adjournments, numerous appeals, and escalating legal cost. So the phrase that we often hear, that tarikh pe tarikh, that adjournments are given, new dates are given. So this editorial have highlighted major two issues that are leading to long judicial process or judicial pendency: the process of court scheduling as well as the case management. But there are other issues also. As per the National Judicial Grid, more than 4 crore cases are pending across Indian courts. So why we have such a higher judicial pendency? There are various issues. For example, the number of judges that are very low, especially in the High Court as well as in the District Court. There is lot of vacancies, and since the lower level judiciary is filled by the states, the particular states are not very motivated to conduct proper exams to appoint these judges. So there is high judicial vacancies. Second, lack of infrastructure. That infrastructure is not very robust. So that is also one of the issues, that government cannot appoint more judges because they do not have that infrastructure to make them sit. Then this culture of adjournment. Then the lack of proper awareness about the rights of the citizens. Also the poor investigation by the police forces, etc. That also leads to lot of pending cases in the judiciary. So the editorial says that the significant factor contributing in the Indian judiciary is the scheduling and the case management practices. That effective case management involve clear timelines for filing documents, conducting witness examination, scheduling hearings, and limiting adjournment are crucial. Without these, the court system struggle to move cases forward efficiently. So what happens? As of now, there is no clear timeline that what amount of time would be provided for presenting next witness, or what would be the time that would be provided. There is no as such timeline fix that after this last hearing, what is the time by which the order of the or the judgment of the court would come, or there is no timeline that in this particular case adjournment cannot be done. It is generally on the whims and fancies of the particular judge. So when we do not have a clear timeline for adjournments, for filing new documents, filing new witnesses, etc., that leads to more and more judicial pendency. So this court scheduling and as well as the case management have long been challenged within the Indian judiciary. Mechanisms such as case flow management rules were introduced for district and high courts to streamline the process, set timelines, and create more predictable court schedules. However, despite the introduction in late 2000s, these rules and other initiatives that were aimed at improving scheduling and timely case disposal have been inconsistently implemented, and they have limited impact. And one of the major reason was that there has been limited use of technology in that. For example, e-course project that were being running, still we couldn't develop that properly. So when we are not integrating our technology properly, and this case flow management rules hasn't been developed, hasn't been followed properly, it is leading to further difficulty in case management as well as case scheduling. Also, if you look at the other challenges in the district judiciary, judges have a crucial role in enforcing case management timelines, but systemic pressure often compromise their ability to do so. Judges in the district judiciary have to prioritize cases with the direction from the higher court to dispose of these cases within a specific time or when the target disposal numbers have been provided for the case types. So at this point of time, it is not the complete discretion of that district judge to decide that what priority he have to give for particular case. Rather, it is generally guided by the higher courts. So that creates difficulty in managing the cases. Also, such oversight aims to ensure timely justice. Higher court often impose deadlines without fully considering their impact on the overall scheduling of the district courts. These forces district courts to allocate disproportionate resources to expedite certain cases, disrupting scheduling as well as creating further delays. Also, the Supreme Court of India and various high courts have criticized this trend, noting that such directive often disrupt the case management in district court. A more balanced approach is needed, wherein the higher court's deadline align with the district court operational realities to avoid further impact on their resources as well as creating delays. For example, when extensions are permissible, judges frequently grant them beyond statutory deadlines, knowing that higher courts are likely to condone such delays if appealed. Judges who enforce these deadlines may face pressure from the bar, potentially affecting their career progression as they risk being labeled difficult and subjected to constant complaints. There is also performance evaluation system of the judges in the district court, and for that they are provided units based on the performance in the district judiciary, and this is based on the type and number of cases they dispose of, with different weight assigned to different case type. And to maximize their units, judges might prioritize and dispose of the simpler cases quickly, which requires limited number of time to dispose, allowing them to accumulate more points, and that can actually help us in their further career progression. And this can lead to a situation where judges focus on less on the complex cases to boost their unit count, potentially neglecting some of the complex cases, and further lead to piling of the cases and judicial pendency. And this may inadvertently lead to further delays. If we talk about other impact, that lawyers significantly impact the court scheduling and case management, often handling multiple case schedule across different courts on the same day, and they strategically decide about which case to attend based on the factors such as likelihood of adjournment, the importance of case, or the perceived mood and predisposition of a particular judge. This often leads to adjournment in some matters. And why this is happening? Because of lack of predictability. In case hearing exacerbate this issue, lawyers often do not have a clear understanding that when a particular case will be heard, or likelihood of adjournment, making it difficult to plan their schedules. What is happening? There is a lawyer who is a very good lawyer, very reputed lawyer. He have multiple cases pending in the different courts. So he might prioritize that he will only go to this particular court and he will not go to other courts. His junior will take adjournments. Or if he think that a particular judge is going to give adjournment only, then he will not go at that particular court. But if there is a predictability, if there is a clear timeline that today would be for sure hearing of this case, that particular lawyer would prioritize that particular court, or he will ensure that there is only one case or few cases in that particular day so that he can manage all the cases. Why this is happening? Because there is no predictability, there is no proper case management and case scheduling practice that is being followed. Also, the tendency to extend stays and interim orders further diminishes the interest of lawyers in active pursuing a case, because when the case will be extended, they will get further their fees or whatever you can say, as some experts believe. For litigants, obtaining a stay on the case can often be seen as a victory, especially in a civil matters where a stay order may prevent any immediate adverse action. Consequently, once a stay is obtained, there may be little incentive in pushing for a speedy resolution, contributing to backlog of the cases. Before a trial begins, the judge sets a schedule with a specific date for each witness's testimony, and accordingly summons are issued. However, the timing of testimonies often become unpredictable due to changes in the court schedule, adjournment and procedural delays. This disrupts the daily life of the witnesses, forcing them to leave their jobs, make travel arrangements, and also personal responsibilities become on hold, often without knowing that they have to testify. This lack of predictable schedule frustrates witness and also creates a financial strain and discourages their court appearances, and at various cases these witnesses become hostile. But let's suppose there is a clear cut timeline that on the 7th day this particular witness will come, he would be present, because today it is very much predicted that testimony of that particular witness is going to happen. So due to this lack of predictability in the court management or the case management, further the witnesses also become hostile. So what we need holistic reforms. First, we need to address the court scheduling issues. A holistic approach is needed that goes beyond rules and timelines and which focuses on incentivizing all actors. Judges should be evaluated not just by the number of cases they dispose, but also by their ability to manage more complex cases within the prescribed timeline. Also, the complex cases that require substantial judicial interventions, encouraging a broader range of cases management when units would be provided proportionate to the complex cases, more and more judges would be incentivized, motivated to pursue those cases. Also, lawyer needs better scheduling information to reduce uncertainty and avoid unnecessary adjournments. Courts should implement predictable scheduling systems, introduce penalties for the delays and reward lawyers who adhere to the schedules. The technological solutions could also enhance case management, providing real-time updates and the monitoring of that particular case. Court can adopt a data-driven approach to identify and address the scheduling bottlenecks, improving overall judicial efficiency. Without reform that account for the human side of the system, any procedural changes will remain just that, paper reforms. So what is happening, that this particular editorial has basically focused on two particular issues, that is the issue of court scheduling and case management. However, we have talked briefly about various other issues which are plaguing the judiciary at large, which is creating the issues of the judicial pendency. And if you talk about various other reforms that is needed, we need to fill the vacancies that are there. We need to ensure that judges are getting proper infrastructure. We have properly integrated our technologies so that the duplication of the cases can be diminished, as well as the faster processing of cases can happen. And we also need to provide proper training and capacity building to the police forces so that proper investigation can be done, and that will also reduce the time that was taken for pursuing a particular case or giving judgment in a particular case. Next topic is workers strike at Samsung. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2 fundamental rights, and this has appeared in today's The Indian Express page number 8. So what is the context of topic? The context of topic is that the labor strike at Samsung plant in Sri Perumbudur just outside Chennai has stretched into its second month, with over 1,000 workers demanding the recognition of their union and improvements in the working conditions. Though protests began in early September, the Tamil Nadu government took major proactive steps to hold talks with Samsung only on the Monday. They have not understood the situation properly, the issue properly. Also, 3 senior ministers representing ministries of MSME and industry, with Samsung, they have agreed to some concessions, wage increase and additional benefits, but the core issue of union recognition remained. So why these workers are protesting? The core issue is that workers demand for recognition of their newly formed Samsung India Workers Union and under the banner of Center for Indian Trade Unions, which is a left-leaning labor organization affiliated with Communist Party of India Marxist. However, the South Korean electronics company resisted this demand, while Samsung said it is against the idea of union engaging in collective bargaining along with leaders from outside. The State Labour Department also did not process a request by labourers to register their union. As per the law, government should have processed the request within 45 days. Workers then moved the Madras High Court over the delay, and the government has said it will wait for the court's decision. So the major issue was that non-registration or non-recognition of this Samsung India Workers Union. Why? Because this Samsung company is not very happy with this collective bargaining, where there are some people who are also not working in that particular plant, and they are on the table, they are sitting on the table for the bargaining. Apart from this, they have also complained that they were made to wait for hours in the rooms alone to ask the questions. They were denied leaves, forced into relentless overtime, and isolated from their peers. For the labor force, this strike has not just about the union, it is about their basic rights as the workers. So after the meeting on the Monday, the government claimed that a settlement has been reached. Samsung India today signed memorandum of agreement with the workmen committee of its Chennai factory, and they said that we are cognizant of the Tamil Nadu government efforts to end this illegal strike and are thankful to the authorities for the constant support, the company spokesperson said. For the Samsung, this particular plant is very crucial because it is contributing almost 1/3 of its annual revenue in India. The factory produces appliances, some white goods like refrigerator, washing machines, and other things like televisions. And this strike is one of the largest labor disruptions that company has faced in India. Contract worker who make a significant portion of the plant hasn't participated this strike, but the production have slowed significantly. At least 50% of the production has been affected. Samsung has consistently argued that a strike is not about the wages or working condition, which they claim has already been addressed, but it is about this union's alleged attempt to gain control over the labor force. After the talks held on Monday, a spokesperson stated that they will engage with the workmen directly to address the difficulties faced by them. Also, what is happening? Understand this thing. This right to strike is not a fundamental right. Right to protest is a fundamental right under the Article 19. But right to strike is not a fundamental right. This should be very clear. Also, Supreme Court in various other judgments also emphasized on this point that this is not a fundamental right. Next, UK's OpenSAFELY and transparency. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your prelims, current events of national and international importance, and it had appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 14. The context is that in a significant advancement for health data research, Ben Goldrace and his team has developed a OpenSAFELY platform enabling access to health records of approximately 58 million people in the UK without compromising the privacy of them. What does this National Health Service provide? This provides free health care to every person in the UK for every malady. The country is proud of its health system, and in fact part of opening ceremony of London 2012 Olympics was a salute to this National Health Service. And NHS in a crisis at present is a separate story. Every British citizen has a single health record from birth to death, and every bit of care that is provided under this NHS is entered into that record. The NHS health record goes back more than 70 years, since 1996. The 96% of doctors' officers have maintained electronics record. Now, NHS has said that NHS has its shares of this data leaks. Each such event reduces the public trust in that maintenance of the records. The Ben Goldrace is a professor in the University of Oxford, and his team has created this OpenSAFELY, which is a platform for accessing the health record data without breaching the privacy of the person of whose data it is. Also, he stressed that they required top-notch IT professionals to develop the system. It required the skills of people who had created or run the backend of the large e-commerce company. And how this OpenSAFELY will work? Imagine a strong room that holds all the National Health Service record data. It is used to be that researchers could request particular type of record which would be sent to them after waiting, and there were 3 problems with the system. First, given the backlog, it could take months to process the request. Also, even if the patient record has been stripped of the identifying information, it was sometimes possible to re-identify that person. Third, in principle, it is not ideal to have patient record in other private hands. With OpenSAFELY, researchers are neither allowed to enter the strong room nor send any record. If they have query, they are provided with dummy data where they can test their software and check whether the data retrieved is correct. If they can submit their queries to a strong room using the same code and obtain the data they need without accessing a single record. So the team members were able to undertake many analysis related to COVID-19, including the factors associated, deaths associated, and various other assessment they have done with regard to the prostate cancer, etc. So why they are doing this data? So that tomorrow this data can be made available according to the need that is arising. Also, with more and more processing of the data, future diseases can be prevented, they can be cured better, more and more vaccines availability can be done of the upcoming diseases, etc. Thus, OpenSAFELY is a system that pleases both those who are concerned with the data privacy, data transparency, and it is perhaps world's first to do so at this scale. And such a system could be developed for many scales of a data in a widely variety of domains. It is a template that we do well be aware of and that can be followed in other parts of the country. Just think of example of UIDAI, which have our biometric data and various data like birth, etc. Now let's suppose there is a system of record which is not only having this biometric data of birth, etc., but also about the history of diseases, our history with related to various issues we have faced in our health, what is the cure we have taken or diagnosis we have taken, results of various tests that we have undergone. All those issues, if they are properly represented, that is, you can say, some kind of data that is OpenSAFELY going to manage. Next topic is green patch spreads in Antarctica. This is with regard to the syllabus of your GS paper 3, environmental pollution and degradation, and this has appeared in today's The Indian Express, page number 19. The context is that the plant cover across the Antarctic Peninsula, a long mountainous extension of Antarctica that points north towards the South America, has increased more than 10 times over the past few decades due to rising temperature, a new study says. It is the beginning of a dramatic transformation. What is happening? Understand this, that with rising temperature, more and more glaciers are melting, and after melting, the bare rocks are flourishing, bare rocks are visible, and lichens, mosses and green plants are growing on those rocks or the soil surfaces when that particular glacier has melted due to rising temperature. And the Antarctic Peninsula is now almost 3 degrees Celsius warmer on average than in 1950. Antarctica has been experiencing record cases of heat waves in summer. In July this year, ground temperature in part of continent were around 10 degrees Celsius higher than the normal, up to 28 degree higher on the certain days. In March 22, the Antarctica experienced most intense heat wave. The temperature in East Antarctica soared to almost 39 degrees Celsius above normal. And research have used the satellite imagery to conclude the data about the rising vegetation in the areas. And also, rising temperatures in Antarctica have resulted in rapid decrease in extent of sea ice. And why it is cause of a worry about increased vegetation in Antarctica? The mosses that are coming on the bare rocks, they can colonize the bare rock and create the foundation of soil that could, in milder condition, make the continent more favorable for the growth of some of the invasive species that could threaten the native flora and the fauna. Also, if you would recall some of the concepts that you read in your environment, this is the case of primary succession that is happening when mosses are appearing on the bare rocks. Also, soil in Antarctica is mostly poor or non-existent, but this increase in plant life will add organic matter and it will facilitate soil formation that raises the risk of non-native and invasive species arriving into the particular continent. Also, increase in plant life could reduce the Antarctic Peninsula ability to reflect the sunlight. That is, the albedo capacity of the Antarctica will also reduce. That will further lead to more and more greenhouse gas emissions like methane, etc. Also, it will lead to more and more absorption of the heat that will happen. Antarctica has already lost 280% more ice mass in 2000 and 2010. And then it lost in 1980s to 90s. According to a 2019 study published in journal PNAS, rising temperature will exacerbate the loss of ice and raise the global sea levels. And as unprecedented level of greenhouse gases enter the atmosphere, mainly through the burning of fossil fuels, Antarctica will continue to get warmer and the vegetation is only likely to increase according to researchers. Next topic is hike in MLALAD funds. This is related with the syllabus of your GS paper 2, government policies and intervention, and this has appeared in today's Indian Express, page number 6. The context is that with the assembly election in national capital a few months away, the AAP government Thursday approved a 50% hike in MLA local area development funds, and that funds has now been increased from 10 crore to 15 crore a year. And not only Delhi will now provide the highest MLA funds, but also 3 times more than the most states. In most states, this is 5 crore only. These MLALAD funds are issued every year to MLAs for local development such as repairing road, street lights, developing parks and laying sewer lines in the colonies. This is a direct you can relate with the MP lads that is present with the MPs at the central level or the union government level, and this MLA lad is available at the state level or union territory level in case of Delhi. MP lads, that is Member of Parliament Local Area Development Program, it was launched on 23rd December 1993. The 5 crore per annum grant to each MP to take development project in constituency, and this is applicable to Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha MPs. 15% of annual outlay of fund must be utilized on areas that is inhabited by scheduled caste population, and the 7.5% of annual outlay of fund must be utilized on area inhabited by scheduled tribe population. And another thing you have to understand that it is under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Earlier it was under the Ministry of Rural Development. How this fund actually work? This Member of Parliament will recommend work based on the local needs in his or her constituency. Then the district authority under the district collector will sanction the eligible works. They will select the implementing agency which is responsible for the implementation. Then all the detail with regard to the completed and the ongoing works are listed under the district authorities office and on mplads.gov.in. Citizen can file RTI to know about the status of works and the funds. Also, the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation formulates this MPLADS policy, release 5 crore annually in installments of 2.5 crore directly to the district authority, and they also established various monitoring mechanisms. And in this regard only a prelims question was asked in year 2020. Please answer the answer of this particular question in the comment box, that what should be the answer of this particular question. Next topic is Ministry of Home Affairs bans Hizb-Ut-Tahrir. This topic relates with your GS paper 2 government policies and intervention. This has appeared in today's Indian Express page number 16. The context is that the center on Thursday banned this Hizb-Ut-Tahrir, a global pan-Islamic group set up in Jerusalem in 1953 under the UAPA, saying that the organization aimed to establish Islamic State and Caliphate globally, including in India, through jihad and terrorist activities. In a notification, MHA said that this HUT is involved in radicalization and motivation of gullible youth to join terrorist organizations such as ISIS and raising funds for terror activities. Also, the ban will be effective on HUT and all its manifestation and front organizations. If we talk about various other unlawful organizations that are banned in India, then the Students Islamic Movement of India or SIMI, United Liberation Front of Assam, National Democratic Front of Bodoland, Meaty Extremist Organization of Manipur, and several other have been banned by the Ministry of Home Affairs under UAPA. Then last topic is National Human Rights Commission. This particular topic pertains to syllabus of your GS paper 2, statutory bodies, government policies and intervention, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 7. This National Human Rights Commission is a statutory body which has been set up by the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993, and there has been an amendment in this particular act in year 1990 which has amends that to provide that a person who has been Chief Justice of Supreme Court or the Judge of Supreme Court will be the chairperson of NHRC. Earlier, only the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court can be the chairperson of the NHRC. Also, that the bill amends that 3 members to be appointed, of which at least 1 will be women in the NHRC. Also, it says that the chairperson of the National Commission for Backward Classes, National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, and Chief Commissioners for Persons with Disabilities are members of this NHRC. Also, after this amendment, the term of office is limited to 3 years or till the age of 70 years, whichever is earlier. Also, the recent amendment has removed the 5-year limit for the reappointment. The recent amendment has also allowed the Secretary General to the NHRC to exercise all administrative and financial powers except the judicial functions subject to the chairperson's control. And if you talk about the major functions of the NHRC, it try to ensure that there are no human rights violation, every rights are properly protected. Also, occasionally they can visit the jail to look into the whether proper rights are being provided to the inmates in the jails or not, the living conditions they can look. They have complete this control to check that jail at any point of time. This was all from today's Analyst. Thank you very much. All the very best. Keep studying.